Good morning. Hey, Monkey Mind coming to you live from Chicago. How are you guys? Today is Wednesday, another beautiful day here in the city. Just came back from the beach and it was kind of funny because Arthur saw this other dog that he's been wanting to kind of like jump and play with, but the other dog is always on a leash. We bump into them, coming and going on the sidewalk and stuff. And so this dog was out chasing the frisbee and Arthur came running out of the water and they were like wrestling and rolling around, and the owner came up and he goes, "Oh my God, you're all wet and sandy," to his dog. And I thought that was so funny because I'm like, well, we're at the beach. Like, so crazy. But anyway, kind of had to be there, but it was hilarious. All about expectations and management of, the reality of your situation, right? Which is kind of what I wanted to talk about today a little bit. Yesterday, kind of touched on the self-awareness piece and the self-worthiness piece of, people walking around with, a hole in their self-worth and not even knowing it, right? Or even knowing how to go about fixing that once they realize they have that hole in their self, and what they're using to fill up that hole that's probably not healthy for them, and how to switch that, right? And one of the questions that I got in my messages was, well, how do you even come to that place where you start to realize that you've been filling yourself up with things that aren't good for you, or filling up something that's been missing? And it's the self-awareness piece that I always talk about, but sometimes it's just consequences, right? You have consequences to your behaviors. And so my quote for today is, "Everything happens for a reason." Good morning. Hi, how are you? Hi, Danny. Everything happens for a reason, but sometimes the reason is you're making bad decisions. And if you're making bad decisions for yourself, it's probably because you're not really questioning, why am I choosing this? So let's go circle back to my example of getting the puppy. I had been talking for a long time about getting a puppy, but I've been preventing myself from doing it because I knew that having a puppy was going to be a lot of work. It was going to be a big responsibility, and that it was going to force me to stay home more, which was kind of counterintuitive to what I've been trying to do, which is that once my dad wasn't my, primary focus after his passing, that I'd have a lot more freedom to go and do things. Well, but in a weak moment, right after he passed away, like literally like days, I jumped in the car and got this puppy. And I love him, but it's a huge responsibility. And it's turning out to be true that it's, he's got separation anxiety. He does, and I'm at home a lot more than I probably should be right now. And I'm taking responsibility for that. And I know my triggers, and I probably should have decided somewhere in myself and in my, self-awareness piece is like, okay, well, let's see if in 2 weeks I still want a puppy, or maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Because when you're triggered by grief or anger or anything else that are your personal triggers, you're not strong in that, right? So when you're hungry, you can get triggered a lot easier. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're grieving, all of those triggers make you more susceptible to making bad decisions. Now, do I consider getting the puppy a bad decision? Not really, because it's something that I wanted, and there's been some amazing benefits in terms of like my level of exercise, the companionship, all the fun. My boys, who were also grieving, love the puppy, and that's been amazing for them. So it's just about being realistic about why you do the things that you do, and paying attention. And that self-awareness piece is really, really important. It's also really important, and comes up a lot in coaching, because self-awareness is equal to, emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is really, really big factor in who's going to become a very successful leader in any organization. So your IQ, you've heard the quote, like your IQ gets you in the door, and your EQ is what gets you promoted. And now there's a third term called collaborative intelligence, which is coined CQ, and that's all about, how can you work with other people. But I kind of feel like that's the same thing as emotional intelligence, because if you aren't emotionally intelligent, you're not good at reading social cues, you're not paying attention to the other people's needs, you don't have empathy, and those are all emotional intelligence words. So how do you get better at your emotional intelligence? You learn about yourself first, because if you're not recognizing your own feelings and your own stressors and your own triggers, your own reactions, you're not recognizing them in others. And that affects all your relationships, not just your relationships in the workplace, but all your relationships, in your romantic relationships, your parenting relationships, friendships, everything. If you're not able to recognize when someone needs you, or someone needs you to step off, or someone needs you to explain something, or maybe not be so harsh in how you explain it. If you have no level of understanding about how that is with another person, you're not going to be collaborative, and you're not going to have as good a strong relationship, because that's how you build trust and intimacy. So, you know, how do we get self-aware, right? It can take some time. It can take some work. Meditation is a great piece, because it does slow you down a little bit and gets you in touch with your body and your breathing and your feelings. Also, you know, taking some time to write down how you're feeling. Why am I responding to this? Journaling is amazing, because it allows you to take it back, a step back from your behaviors, and look back over time and see what things have been repeated over and over, and certain kinds of relationships, certain people that you draw to you, certain kinds of situations. You know, when you meet someone who has, you know, left many jobs, you start to realize, and they're usually people who, you know, play the victim in something like that. Oh, you know, well, this boss was bad, and this organization was bad, and they didn't hear me, and I'm too smart for that, or whatever it is. But, you know, when you meet someone like that and you really listen to what they're saying, what you understand over time is that the common denominator in all of the situations is that person. And so that's, you know, you watch that behavior in others, and then you pay attention to it in yourself. And over time, you start to question and change. And, you know, you need to take responsibility when you've made a bad choice, when you've said something inappropriate, when you've hurt someone's feelings, not shown up the way you should have. Own it, take responsibility, tell someone that you're sorry, tell someone that you understand why it didn't work out, whatever it is you need to do, write a letter. You know, there's all kinds of ways to do that. So that's my emotional intelligence versus IQ intelligence. Nothing wrong with having an IQ. That's really important as well. And being a very performance-driven person is really important. But if you want to, you know, rise to the top of your game, you need to pay attention to your emotional intelligence as well. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. If you find anything in my video that you think someone else might benefit from, hit the little arrow and share it. I'd love to grow my audience. Good morning. If you want to know more, you can go down on my wall. I've got a lot of videos on there now. It's been really exciting, and working on the YouTube channel, which is also great. I'd love to hear your feedback and comments, and have a great day. See you tomorrow, guys. Peace.